The courtroom was packed that morning. Every seat was filled, and even the narrow aisles were lined with people leaning against the walls, craning their necks just to get a better view. The trial of the year had captured the town's attention, and at the center of it all stood a man who didn't look like he belonged in the middle of such a storm, John Kennedy Crockett. He wasn't a seasoned lawyer. He wasn't a man born into privilege. He was a farmer's son, dressed in a plain, slightly wrinkled suit that had seen better days. His hair was combed back neatly, but nerves were visible in the way his hands shook when he adjusted his tie. Yet his eyes told a different story. They were sharp, unyielding, and determined eyes of a man who had been pushed too far and wasn't about to step aside quietly. On the bench, towering above everyone else in his black robe, sat Judge Andrew H. Stones. Known throughout the state as a man of wit, sarcasm, and often a sharp tongue, he was as feared as he was respected. That morning, when John Kennedy Crockett rose from his seat at the defendant's table to make his opening remarks, Judge Stones leaned back in his chair and smirked. "Mr. Crockett," the judge said, his voice dripping with condescension, "I trust you know what you're doing? This is a court of law, not a storytelling contest. Let's not waste everyone's time." The courtroom chuckled, and then came the moment that would set everything into motion. Judge Stones laughed, an audible, dismissive laugh that echoed through the chamber, directed straight at John as if he were a boy foolish enough to wander into the wrong place. The crowd followed suit, some shaking their heads, some even whispering that John had no chance against the seasoned attorneys on the other side. But John didn't flinch. He stood straight, looked at the judge, and with a calm but firm voice said, "Your Honor, I may not have the education or the polish of the gentleman across from me. But what I do have is the truth. And with your permission, I'd like to show this court that sometimes, the truth doesn't need a fancy suit or a silver tongue to be heard." The room went silent. The case at hand wasn't just about money or property, it was about legacy. John Kennedy Crockett's family farm, which had been in his family for 3 generations, was on the line. A wealthy corporation had filed suit, claiming the land had been improperly deeded and technically belonged to them. The lawyers on the opposing side were sharp, well-funded, and ruthless. They had paperwork, precedents, and a mountain of evidence. John had none of that. What he had was memory, lived experience, and the deep conviction that his father's sweat and his grandfather's calloused hands were written into the very soil. John took a deep breath before speaking again. "When I was a boy, my father would wake me up before sunrise to milk the cows. He used to tell me, 'Son, this land is more than dirt. It's the story of who we are.'